Hi, I'm the Complex Games Apologist. This video is going to be an explanation of how tests and skill checks and that sort of thing are done in 2die20 system. Now, the chief systems that are really popular now are both by Modiphius, and they are Star Trek Adventures and Conan, Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of. Now, there are a lot of ways of explaining how this system works, and I've got one already on my channel here in the form of my Star Trek Adventures tutorial. But today I'm going to try and start from what I feel is the heart of the system, the beating truth. And it's going to surprise you more than a little bit if you're unfamiliar with it. So in the overwhelming majority of tabletop role-playing systems, when a character comes to a point where the outcome is uncertain and failure is as interesting as success, that sort of thing, we usually call that a test, a skill check, a die roll. And then, in consultation with the context and the circumstances, the game master sets a difficulty. It doesn't matter if it's a system that has one die roll like D100 systems or D20-based systems like D&D, or if it's a die pool-based system like World of Darkness, Shadowrun, or 2die20. Now, 2die20 is a little bit different as far as why we roll more D20s, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But for now, feast your gray cells on this one crazy idea. In 2die20 system, the core difficulty of a task is not the character's chance of success. Okay, it does inform the probability of success, but when it comes down to it, it's the choice that you make about how much risk or preparation or sort of your friend's verve and moxie that you're drawing upon that will end up telling you how likely you are to succeed. And that's because when you're going along, doing your normal adventuring things as a character, you're doing, narrating what you want to do next, open doors, pick locks, attack enemies, and the like. And then you arrive at that point where the game master says, "That's going to take a die roll." At that point, the game master tells you what the difficulty is. Now, this is nothing particularly new. Lots of systems and lots of cultures of play have the idea that the character will know the difficulty going into the die roll, that you get told that beforehand. Now, here's where things start to get a little bit different. Now that you know the difficulty, you can purchase additional dice to add to your pool. Now, this sounds like it's nothing new either, really, since there are lots of role-playing game systems where you can throw a hero point onto a die, or spend a force point, spend some of your edge or inspiration. But in those other games, when you buy that extra die, it's with a very limited supply of that currency, a currency that it's pretty hard to recoup through kind of normal average play. In contrast, in 2die20 system, when you buy more dice, it's with momentum and doom tokens. And these bad boys are pretty much part and parcel the bread and butter of the core of play. Momentum is extra degrees of success that your group has earned on previous checks. And after a given character completes a test and declines to flavor the results of that check by spending those extra degrees of success, those extra successes become momentum tokens. Or you always have the option of purchasing additional dice by giving the game master doom tokens. They don't come from somewhere to go to the game master, you're spawning them out of the void. And once the game master has them, he can use them as momentum to buy more dice for his NPCs, and to kind of get up to mischief, like, yet another squad of Zindi thugs drop from the ceiling to obstruct your path to the shuttle pod. At the midpoint of your crossing over a treacherous bridge of vines woven from the jungle, hundreds of feet below you, the water in a raging river churning. Suddenly, the vines snap. Now, these purchases of additional dice are key to every single die roll you make, because of the kind of dice pool system 2die20 is. Because unlike in Shadowrun, World of Darkness, or Ubiquity, where we get more and more dice to represent greater and greater competence from our character, just rolling against a fixed number on the die for successes, instead, in 2die20 system, the target number of our die roll changes to represent competence. While the size of the pool in 2die20 is determined by how much risk we're taking by adding additional doom to the pool, or how much prior success we're taking advantage of in the form of momentum. See, it's called 2die20 system because you get 2 die20 to roll for free before you buy additional dice with momentum and doom. It's a slightly deceptive name. So to bring this all into focus, let's say that I have an athletics skill of 13 in Conan, and I'm climbing a cliff face, and the game master tells me, "That's going to take a die roll. It will be difficulty 2. And I'm climbing this cliff face to get away from a stampeding herd of wildebeests. So looking down at 2die20, I have a fairly intuitive sense of how much chance of success I'm going to have. I have to roll 13 and under on 2die20 to meet that difficulty. So looking around at the table and how my other companions are going to have to get away and how there's already a fair amount of doom that the Game Master can throw at us in the form of some bad stuff, I think about it and I decide to purchase 2 dice, one with momentum and one with doom. So I roll those 4 dice and I get 3 successes. So one of them turns back into momentum, which I can pass on to my companions, who also probably need to climb this cliff face or do something else similarly clever. So that, in a nutshell, is what's going on with 2die20 system and how it's so different than other die pool systems and generally different from any other conception of difficulty. Difficulty informs how much risk or preparation you're going to have to do as a character going into something if you expect to succeed. Now, you don't always know the difficulty, and you can get stuck with a test that will be hard to succeed at, of course. The Game Master doesn't have to tell you something's difficulty before you start doing it, just before you do those spends. Now, there are a lot of opinions and reactions to this system, and if you come at it from the lens of like a classic Pathfinder-style outlook where a DC 16 wall is a DC 16 wall, then you can paddle yourself up a pretty uncomfortable creek. And this is where people get a little bit negative or talk about 2die20 as a metagamey system, and I have a reply to that. But to look at their point of view really briefly, they are saying that your character doesn't know how well the knight next door is galloping along the highway, so how does it affect how well he stalks through the bushes in terms of momentum? How does the character know how much doom there is out there? So I think the really important thing to note here is the reason why you were making a test in the first place. The hero is going along, because these games are heroic overtly in their genre. Conan and Star Trek and so on, John Carter, these are games where the hero generally is moving along, dominating the story, except when he bumps up against the things that are true existential threats and challenges to his character and that sort of thing. So there's not DC 16 walls and DC 12 walls. There are walls that you can scale and walls that you can't scale. And among the walls that you can scale, there might be some complicating factors. It's slippery, it's windy, you're trying to do it while carrying someone else, you are fighting off giant land crabs that are swarming you, and you're trying to swing your sword while you climb. In 2die20 system, the core difficulty is 1, and then things change. We're not in that usual zero to hero environment where we have to scale everything for when we're a level 1 noob and a level 20 badass. We are the heroes of the story. Now, I don't find that to particularly pull me out of character, because I like to think of myself as the hero of my life. Don't you? And even when I do have my tail between my legs, I probably want to roleplay someone who does think they're the hero of the story. So I mentioned the core difficulty idea and the heroic assumption of the system, and these are really front and center things that are actually in the rulebook, because I think they're important to my reply about the metagaming problem that people see that I don't. I think it really matters because you got to read the rule book and understand what's really going on as opposed to using your prior assumptions. So here's my reply. When you're right there in the moment and you're getting ready to purchase more dice, the question is, how much risk are you going to take? Sometimes I've done some dangerous driving. Sometimes I had hairs standing up on the back of my neck because I knew that we had to leave this party soon before the cops showed up. Sometimes I've come into a group or a team where things are moving along and other people's efforts are really winning the day, and my contribution can lean on them a little bit. And vice versa. When I'm a leader, when I'm managing other people, I often kind of put my effort into it so that they can kind of take their time with things. That's momentum to me. That's me in the perspective of my real life. We have a lot of control over how much effort and how much risk we take. And I think that our characters do too. So that's my reply and my kind of refutation to these ideas of metagame. Feels plenty in character to me. So let's go back to my core thesis that I started this whole thing out with. The idea that difficulty isn't probability of success. Then what is it? What does it represent? What does it simulate in 2die20 system? For me, it's how much does it take to get this done? The character can get this done unless it's really high difficulty, unless it's super dicey. Question is, what do they have to do to make it happen? Let's take like a long-range weapons test. Let's say we are shooting a bow and we have to find our target. We have to acquire a guy who's hiding in the woods. We got to get out from behind the tree that we are hiding behind. And we got to take some risks. We got to throw some doom out there. Or maybe we've got to get ready to do this. We gotta steel our nerves, we gotta search around with our eyeballs, we gotta scout to get enough momentum to make this happen. So difficulty informs what momentum and doom represent. Difficulty informs risk-taking and preparation. And that's really fun. I think that you can use the lens of these token pools to tell a very colorful tale. And that different way of looking at difficulty lets momentum and doom represent degree of success that's been undocked from a particular check. Instead of degree of success for each and every single thing we roll, degree of success can float between them. It can float into the future as risk-taking in doom. Now, I'm not trying to say that 2die20 system is the messiah of all role-playing games. As a matter of fact, I think it really only works within this heroic paradigm, and within genre role-playing like Robert E. Howard stories and Star Trek. But within that, it's really well suited to it, and I think it's worth your time to try it out. And the more that you narrate as the game master and as the players what's happening as you do these things, as you get these tokens, what it means for you to create opportunity, because that's what the name of the momentum spend that gets you that extra die is. When you create these opportunities, narrate them and enjoy 2die20 system.